Greetings, guys. You guys probably remember me saying, especially more so last month, that I was going through something that was making me feel rather somber. Well, I have decided that I can sense enough time has passed and like my processing period is over. Therefore, I also determined that it was still appropriate for me to share this with you guys, but I also figured out how I wished to share it given the nature of this matter. And it's not particularly hard for me because I sincerely feel like the community I have here, because it is small, I can already predict who is going to show up for me in the comment section. You guys who have been here since closer to my beginning with posting videos, I can already tell that you guys are going to be the folks who make up the comments that I'm going to receive. And sincerely, you are the one I'm looking for because I have very fond memories with some of you in the comment section and the things that you guys have taught me, the ways that you guys have influenced me, inspired me, and just overall kept me strong, especially in areas when it was through you that I could discover that I had certain shortcomings. And it's not like I didn't know I had shortcomings, it was more about you were like professors for me. Professors are there to inspire you to look for information deeper. And that is exactly what I always desire for this channel, which is I'm going to put my stuff out there, but then what is going to come out of this after I have talked to myself about this? But then, whichever audience member it intercepts, maybe one of you will say something since I am counting on the small community now. And that is very useful for me. Even when I didn't have an audience and my videos only got from 0 to 3 views, I was still proud of myself for my ability to verbally journal now. And a lot of people like to condemn using social media as a journal, but I personally don't feel that way. And I think it's because I feel like the info I have put out there is nothing that I have to regret, is nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that the only time I can see myself regretting something, it would be if I exposed something willingly, understanding, knowing that it's not proper for me to expose, for me to share, especially with things like name dropping or simply putting someone completely on the spot. And I'm very proud of myself for that because sometimes it takes a lot of restraint to, at least not online because I never considered that, but in person at least. Sometimes I will be telling a friend some things, and even if they ask me for their name, I'll be like, it's not that I don't trust you, it's just that I still believe in preserving the dignity of a person. And I don't name drop unless I know that it's necessary. For instance, if someone in a position of power asks me for a name because there is something that can be done to rectify a situation or to address a situation because it needs to be done from my understanding, then I will empower this person with that extra piece of information. But there are times in which I say, I know why you're asking. I think something should be done, but now is not the time. Give me some time. Well, that is how I treated this matter in my personal life. And the matter I wish to share with you guys is that back in August, I lost my oldest brother. And I want to take my time with this video. I'm not going to edit it in any way. I don't care how much I stutter, how much I possibly cry, or how much I maybe backpedal a little bit. I just wish to become comfortable with talking about this subject because up until this point, up until a few seconds ago, when I just dropped that line, from my part, on my end, the only people I had informed about this had been my manager, and I expressed it to him because I felt that heavy cloud on my shoulders, and it was distracting me to where it had the potential of affecting my job performance. I still showed up to work. I didn't do any of the bereavement stuff. And this happened during the time that I was on PTO anyway. So it's like I had a couple of days as a head start to process this. But as soon as my mother informed me that happened, that was the thought that occupied my mind. And it was something I was not used to. That had not happened to me as an adult. The last time I experienced something like that, it was when my maternal grandfather passed, and I was close to him. And I also, of course, naturally, I feel like I shouldn't mention it, but I will mention it. I mentioned it to my boyfriend as well. And what was weird is that when I found out, I was at the gym on the treadmill, and mom sent me a text with the news. And as informal as it sounds, as detached as it sounds, when I called her later, she told me that, hey, sorry if the way I dropped the news at you was informal, but I sincerely felt like you can handle it. I know that you're strong. I've seen you, I raised you, and you always took news like this very well. So I felt like I had the liberty of doing that. And I said, nah, mom, you're fine. Like, absolutely. Even if texting is not optimal for deep, serious, emotional conversations, we have to accept that it is a part of our reality now. It is a part of our culture now. And my boyfriend was next to me on the treadmill, and I texted him right next to me, like arms reach away, as opposed to leaning in and competing with the noise in the gym and the noise of our foot hitting the treadmill and all that. I texted him, hey, so my mom just told me that my brother is gone and I feel kind of sick. So I pushed stop on the treadmill. I went to the bathroom, and it is surreal because I didn't cry, but I retreated into myself because I had two emotions clashing. It was the emotion of, I'm not surprised, but this is devastating. And the reason I say it's not surprising to me is because of the circumstances that always surrounded my brother, and they were pretty lamentable in my book. That I have to tell you guys that I do not wish to share it. Not because it's anything horrible, it's anything bad, or he was a bad character, or anything like that. It's just that the truth of the matter is, I did not know my brother that well. This is my eldest half brother. I sincerely cannot tell you when was the last time I saw him. I can tell you that I was either a teen or a child the last time I saw him. And the reason I'm not sure about my memory with him, my last memory with him, is because I don't remember if it was during one of my visits or if it was when I was a kid before we left our hometown. I'm just having the hardest time remembering. And I don't remember who was around the last time I saw him so that I could ask them. Sometimes when I would see him, mom wasn't around. Sometimes it could be I was hanging out with my dad, or I was hanging out with another family member and he happened to be roaming about and we would see him. But that is the part that saddens me a bit because I like to reference my last memory with a person. I remember exactly what my last memory with my grandfather was. So I told my manager, and the reason it was easy to tell my manager is because my manager happens to also be my friend. It is not easy for me to open up about these things because in the past, when I had previous management and I experienced things like that that could affect my job performance, I would internalize that crap. The only time I remember sharing some sad news was when my paternal great grandma died. I shared it with the manager I didn't like the most back in those days, but I did so because she was right there and she asked. And granted, she can have good empathetic skills. It's just that it took some time to get there. I believe this happened in the year 2018, and I had been working there for some years now. So, in a sense, I knew what I could resort to her with and what I couldn't. But this time around, I did not hesitate at all. The only way I hesitated was that because I retreated into myself with this, I wanted to text him immediately and be like, hey, I'm going through this. I may need your advice. And the advice I was going to request from him was I would potentially need bereavement, and it depended on my family's plans. But sincerely, you guys, this is the part that's going to be a little tough for me to describe. And it is that I felt like I didn't need it. The way I see bereavement is you need time to process the shock, to be present with your folks, and to simply recover yourself, and to also give you time to resolve anything that may need to be resolved. If this family member, for instance, lived in your home, or maybe they were taking care of a parent, just for you to rearrange your life with the new reality that you have on your hands now. And sincerely, I didn't feel like I needed that because, again, my brother and I were distant. And what is eerie, you guys, now that I describe us being distant, is that I want to say it was his before last post, or maybe the ante penultimate post that he ever posted online. It was within a week of the events happening, and he said that he may be the distant brother, the brother who doesn't check in, but he's still the brother who loves and cares. And it was kind of devastating to read that because I can tell you that is true. The memories I have with him are memories of him being absolutely kind, absolutely loving, and tender. And I think it was because I guess I was the smallest one, like the youngest, the sister. I'm the only sister between all of my brothers. And I'm guessing that maybe him as the eldest, he always saw me as like the most vulnerable, I guess, fragile, maybe the cutest even. His nickname for me was Cricket, and he would always mess with my hair. Like he would, as soon as he would greet me, he would like run his fingers through my hair and like lift it like that somehow. Um, and like I said, I have great memories of him during my childhood, despite us being distant given our circumstances. He is my dad's first kid, and then it's my full brother, and then between my full brother and I, there is another half brother on my dad's side, and then there's me. And after me, you could say that the factory closed. And when my brother's event happened, I think inevitably my thoughts began to overflow because I think a combination of me journaling and having this channel prepared me for stuff like this. given that I very often discuss things tied to this matter. Like you guys have heard me talk about the challenges in my family. If I have talked about the challenges in my family, I have clearly embraced them. I have become comfortable with accepting that they are happening. And with that acceptance also comes the understanding, if you take the time to study it, that is, that those conditions may lead to certain results. And that is exactly what happened with my brother. My brother didn't have a present father figure, and he's like me. He didn't have an education. But what separates my brother and I when it comes to, I guess, our life quality is that I did have a mother who was prepared for my arrival. My eldest brother cannot say that his mom was quite prepared to have him. It's not that she was voluntarily a mom with shortcomings, it's more about being young, and she really didn't have the knowledge of how to handle a kid. And on top of that, being the manager of a home with a kid became overwhelming for her. So you could say that she had her own shortcomings. And with those shortcomings, when you add a child's arrival, that only makes it harder. And it overwhelmed her. And that's why my father's marriage to her didn't work out. And like I said, it's not really her fault. I don't think that she meant to be this way. I think that maybe her parents were not supplying her with the tools that she needed to be prepared as an adult for this type of thing. Maybe she herself didn't demonstrate restraint at perhaps delaying the process of getting married and having a kid, especially if you know that you're not prepared, or it's possible that she didn't realize she wasn't prepared. Maybe she thought that she could manage a home, but there's a difference between managing a home without a kid versus managing a home that has a kid now. And maybe it just overwhelmed her. I wish I knew her so that I had that clear in my mind, but based off the life I knew my brother was leading, I can draw certain conclusions, as well as the anecdotes I remember being shared with me about my brother's relationship with his mom. And my mom, for a very, very, very brief period of time, she was assisting my eldest brother. She was taking care of him for some time. I don't think he quite lived with us. I'm not sure. I would have to ask. I wasn't around for when this happened, but I know that I vividly remember my mom saying, "Oh, yeah, I used to take care of your brother. And even when your brother was little and I had the oldest one, he was a joy to take care of," those things. So I found that to be cool. Like, it's not like there was animosity between them as females, as it's often the case whenever one relationship is over and another one starts, and those bad vibes that start developing, that's immature, petty stuff. That didn't happen in here, at least that I can recall. Maybe in the beginning there wasn't any, and then down the line it started, or maybe vice versa. Maybe in the beginning there was, but down the line it stopped. I'm not sure. I owe that clarity to you guys and to myself as well, I guess. But I can tell you that I can say that I don't remember living drama as a child. When my parents' relationship broke down, my mom had some drama with the more recent women that my father was seeing. But it's not like with the mothers of my brothers, there were any problems. Like, my mom didn't have issues with my eldest brother's mom, and there is my other brother. I don't think my mom has ever met the other lady. I highly doubt it because he has been in a completely different state this entire time. But yeah, I can tell you that from my father's side, there's always been complicated relationships. And I believe the complication in those relationships stem from the fact that he has been so absent. They are unresolved issues, and the unresolved issues revolve around us, his children. And that is why we have the challenges that we have. And as weird as this may sound, my father is the person whose brain I really would like to pick apart, because I feel like he would have trouble recognizing. And I want to be careful about how I say this, because my father is not the one who caused my brother to perish, but there is a degree of responsibility I think my father should take. But I feel like he may not be able to do that. And I can tell you that the reason I say that is because I have thought about that for myself, and how I have lacking resources, issues in my life that he could resolve, but he never has. And because of that, I worry that my own life expectancy may be short. And you guys have heard me say that I just don't feel like I'm going to live a full life, because I'm still trying to resolve challenges of things that I grew up without, that are still occupying my adult years, and that because I haven't liberated myself from that weight, and I have not been able to break that chain, that's why I'm not able to really progress, at least at the capacity that I could. And now that I'm crippled physically, now that is an additional challenge being added, because at least the challenges I had were emotional and financial. Those are easy to resolve, but include physical issues to that. And now I think that my circumstances for me to continue failing are reinforced. And the reason I take the time to make that connection is because something like that is what happened to my brother. And with my brother's example, I would hope that my father finds inspiration to become more present and invested. But I can tell you that he didn't remember my birthday. He messaged me some days later. I don't know how or what reminded him or who reminded him, but at least he apologized for forgetting, and he accepted that is something he is bad at, which I have known this whole time. But coming from him, even if it was through text, it's different to take the time to write something versus you are live talking to someone face to face, or you have them on the phone. He had time to, I guess, put together his message. I don't know if he's like me. When I text, I can message one long ass thing in one take. But there are some people who I witness trying to put a message together, and I see them backtracking and erasing and deleting and adding words and replacing words and shortening sentences and adding more words and all that. No, 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 no. I know exactly what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it right there on the spot. I don't need to revise the letter I'm about to send out. It's one take. I know how to write. I know how to speak. I know my relationship with myself and my thoughts. Why would I second guess how I'm expressing myself? I don't care who the audience is. It could be one of you. It could be my management. It could be my mom. It could be my brother. I say things the way I say them, and period. But when I see someone revising and re revising and re revising a text they're about to send out, Sincerely, I look at that as an insecurity. And if you ask me, insecurities come from you not knowing something. This is unknown territory for you. So if you're composing a message to someone and you find yourself revising it a lot, I feel it's because you're not confident. And I think that lacking confidence is a tragedy. And I can tell you that is a problem that at least I don't have. The most I can do is reread to catch a typo. But outside of that, changing the entire content of my note, never. That doesn't happen. So I would like to pick my brains, my father's brains, and be like, so how long did it take you to send that message? I dead ass ask people like that. Like the manager I was telling you guys we had an interview for, I was like, as soon as I saw him, after the interview, like our next mutual shift, I was like, bro, you were shitting yourself. What happened? And he was like, I got very nervous. That's why I admitted that I got very nervous. And I'm like, but why? You know this. You were talking to people you see every day and you know, and all that. Why would your nerves be racked by us, that type of thing. That's literally how I am. Like, I don't have any strings attached, and I find that very liberating. And that is exactly how I would hope that as an adult you start to feel. Everywhere that you go, you have been on this earth for some time. You're not in high school, you're not a child, you're not surrounded by children unless you have children of your own. Why would you not be confident about how to express yourself? And to me, it is tragic when I witness an adult having trouble putting their mind together, putting their thoughts together, sharing their thoughts, their feelings. And that's how I feel about my father, honestly. I feel like there is a lot he has to say that maybe he wants to say, but he doesn't say because despite his career as a cop, for some reason, the most challenging home for him to intervene in is mine. The person most challenging for him to show up to is me. Literally, the most harmless person in his day that he could encounter. For some reason, there is a lot of insecurity surrounding him, with me at least. And that is something I would like to just dwell on him about. And maybe he would deny this. Maybe he would say that I'm wrong. Maybe he'll say, no, I'm not afraid of you. It's just that I just wasn't there. I didn't know how to show up. I just couldn't do it. Or something. I don't know how to deal with a girl, with a woman, whatever it is. But like I just said, if those are his reasons, this is me trying to guess. But if those are his reasons, I find them pitiful. And again, the reason I say this in a topic about my brother's passing is because I want you guys to understand my sentiment of why I feel like my dad may have some responsibility in this. It was his absence that resulted in my brother lacking certain resources, connections, educational tools, all that. Basically, think about that video I made about how we don't have the same 24 hours. That should remind you of this topic. And when my brother passed, I thought, I'm not shocked, but I'm more shocked at how the family is not shocked, because it goes to show that we had this unresolved issue, but somehow we can never organize ourselves as a family to take action and have real, palpable changes. It's like if I were to visit my grandma, she's going to tell me her thoughts and opinions and stuff. She has her solution. If I talk to my dad, maybe he's going to have his version of his solutions. If I talk to one of my aunts, the same thing is going to come up. They're going to, this happened the last time I visited one of them. Uh, they're just going to go off on me and talk to me about their drama, their issues, and everything. Nothing that I have to do with. They'll have their solutions. It's like, as opposed to talking as a family about how to actively resolve things, we talk about what are our issues, but we're not coming together to address the issues, to resolve them so that we can move past them. And that is sincerely, you guys, why I feel compelled to maintain a distance from them, because I am a person who needs order. I need a plan that is visible, palpable, executable, possibly even written down, methodical. And all I see the family ever do is, I'm going to say all these things, feel all these things, whilst not taking remedial action. That conflicts with my personality. I am a person who believes that the only thing you cannot resolve is your passing. Like, you're going to go from natural causes at some point if nothing else gets you. But sometimes I feel like my family takes a stand of us being helpless when all we have to do is swallow our pride a little bit and actively tune in to each other's problems and recognize where you may have been a contributor to our challenges and commit to simply moving forward. This is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. But I have never really heard that. All I have heard is the whole, you need to go to school, you need to land this type of job, you need to, you have to, you should, you could. And I'm like, okay, is anybody's wallet open? Because I don't have money. And those things cost money. And even if I were to slave away working 3 jobs, it's still not going to give me enough money. And it's not going to give me enough time to invest in this thing. Because if I go to school, for instance, I am going to focus on school. I'm not going to do that bullshit where I'm going to be juggling other commitments to just barely pass by in school. If I'm going to go to school, I'm going to pick the most challenging institution I can, because I truly want to come out of there being a master of what I'm studying, at least in theory. Only experience will give you the reinforcing experience and projects. You will have seen cases and being invested in the act of doing what you studied for to become better. Like, say, had I gone to school to become a teacher, only after experiencing teaching kids and whatnot, then I would take those skills that I have in theory, and I have to also test myself. Can I really put this to practice? Is the way that I'm putting it to practice being effective? If not, what have I done to modify it so that it becomes effective? All those things. Only experience grants you that. But at least when it comes to absorbing the information, the advice, the techniques from school, I am going to focus on just that. Because the moment I fragment my mind, that is the moment I become stressed out, and that is the moment that I stop being efficient. And I'm not going to pursue something with fear. Like, I have the fear of being judged by my family because I'm not a professional or anything like that. Like, no, that doesn't affect me in the slightest. Or having a financial inferiority complex. It's not. Things are the way they are, in period. I'm not going to live an existence of chasing, I don't know, financial stability and freedom because literally everything is against me and I have little control over the future. And I don't even know if I have a future anyway. And what I mean by having little control is I can control how much I work, sure, but next year, what are taxes going to look like? What is my health going to look like? What is inflation going to look like? What are investments going to look like? All of this could plummet in just 1 second. One clown pushing some button, one clown making some stupid decision, and it could all be over. And I don't want to spend my days feeling like the moment that I know it's about to be over, oh, I spent all this time tied up on just one thing, allowing just one thing to occupy me, which is my quest for having solid finances, that I neglected literally everything else. And there are folks I've known who didn't know how to find these words to say, but they genuinely regretted how life just passed them. And now that they're at the very end, they realize that they would have done it differently. They would have realized that their needs and shortcomings were not as severe as they thought. And my brother, though, although he left us pretty young, I can tell you that he lived pretty fully. And this is despite him being possibly one of the siblings with the most disadvantages, like, say, his mother not being like what I described earlier. Let's just sum up what I said with saying strong. My father being absent, and my brother also had two kids. One of them was an older kid already, but he had a fresher one. I think this one is a 4-year old. And I feel sad for that kid because they happen to be very close. My brother was pretty much a full-time parent for this kid. He was with the mother of this child. They were together, they were a couple. But she was the one working because she had the better job prospects, you could say, compared to my brother. Whereas my brother had to rely more on being a freelancer, you could say. And toward the end of his life, he was being more of a parent figure. And in a sense, I'm happy for him because it challenges the norm. Instead, you have a father being a father to a boy, and you also have a father staying in a home, and you also have something different in the family. The fathers in the family have never been that close to their children, or to a child at least, because I don't think he was close with his eldest son, but I don't think it was a continuous thing, you know? But to know that someone in the family finally landed having a father, that is a big deal. But even then, you guys, and this has been consuming me a little bit, my brother perished. The only father we had in the family finally being present in a child's life ripped away. So now, this kid, at least, whether he will remember or not when he gets older, there is pictures and video evidence that, yeah, your dad was wild about you. He loved you. If my father were to be gone today, I can't say that. I can't say he was super close, super loving, super affectionate. Like, I felt him showering me with affection and gifts and all that. I can't say that from a father. But again, out of all of us, in our family, the only one who was getting it, his father was literally taken away from him. I want to say, you guys, sincerely, out of this entire thing, that is the thing that killed me the most. And that is why I have taken the time to describe those little details that I described moments ago, because I really would like for you to go on a trip with me in my thoughts, what it is that I consider, all the things that I evaluate in my processing time. And it's little things like this that make me not be able to immediately get on the phone and start sharing the news with people. It took me a week, for instance, to share it with my manager. My boyfriend, I could tell him immediately because, of course, he's right there and he's going to notice that something about me changed. And for me to come out and become the source of the news, I only shared it with my manager, my boyfriend, and another friend. And that other friend is actually one of you guys who I met here on the channel. And we have been close over the years. But to tell one of you guys, it took me about 3 weeks, because I think I told one of you guys, I don't remember how many days ago this was. I think it was 5 days ago. This happened in early August, and today it is September the 11th as I share this with you guys. So yes, I do have a slow processing time, but sincerely, the reason I do that is because I need peace and quiet. If I start divulging this to people, I run the risk of their gestures, thoughts, and opinions distracting me from my processing time. Even if you're offering me your sincerest condolences, even if you're showing up, giving me your support and all that, those are distractions. It's like a notification on my phone, the very things I have disabled. In real life, I had to take control of disabling real life notifications so that I could preserve the quality of my processing. And if I don't do that, then I'm going to process this in fragments. And I like to take the time to evaluate every single piece of what it means for this event to have taken place. That's why I can talk to you about why I felt the way I felt about my dad. I felt the way I felt about his youngest kid, my brother's youngest kid. I shared what I shared about how our upbringings were circumstantially pretty much the same. We both had a single mother, but how it was different based off your mother's capacity, and how mine was different. And this is how it worked out for me. But since my brother's mom was different, what differences made certain impacts on him, and those impacts were things that I didn't have to go through, I didn't have to deal with, and what it means in real life. And the reason I take the time to share that is because sometimes it sucks that you try to describe things to people, and I don't know if they do this on purpose or maybe they're shielding themselves from information they may find upsetting, or maybe it's lack of empathy. But one of the things that frustrates me the most when I try to converse with people about mature conversations is that there are dismissive tendencies. And sometimes I feel like you're taking the time to blame the victim more than actually getting to understand what it is that disables a person from completing certain things in the first place. Like, can we please take seriously the seriousness of what it means to grow up in a home that was fragmented? Sometimes I look at it as, just because you have accounts of people who they just so happen to be able to grow up and live better lives despite whatever circumstances they experience during childhood, that automatically everybody has the same potential to do it. And that is simply not true, because the way that it affected me, some things I may not recover from, some things I may not recover from until way later down the road, some things I may never accept, some things I may accept, but I may not live well with. And you just gotta learn to listen to someone, absorb their story, and even if you think you know and understand how it is that those things may or may not hinder someone, just accept it. If they're processing it differently, going through it differently, it's because that is the way things are meant to be. We are meant to be different. Not all of us who were abandoned are meant to have this angry energy that shoots us to the stars and we're able to get success because somehow it worked out for us. So you have to consider, what was the price this person was willing to pay to make that happen. My brother, for instance, for him to better his circumstances, he could have made two very simple decisions, and that is not become a father two times. That would have resolved a grand deal of his money issues, for instance. But at the same time, it would have deprived him of the experience of being a father. And that is something that clearly he wanted to be. He liked being a father, he liked kids. And I'm glad that he was able to live that dream, that desire he had. It's not, my brother is focusing on repairing his wounds from the past, rectifying his money issues and all that, and then he'll become a father. Because what if he would have still been pursuing financial liberty and success and all that, postponing the father experience, something that he wanted, but then the reaper came to get him and he never made it to that goal. My brother challenged that. He was like, all right, I'm going to become a father before I'm fully an adult myself, because he had his first kid pretty young, super young. And the second one didn't arrive for a long time. At least my brother can say he did that. And while it's not ideal that now he's gone and those kids are inheriting our curse of growing up without fathers, I'm just saying that individually, that is something that my brother seemed to be okay with, fine with. He embraced the fatherhood, and he did so happily with a smile. Nobody can say that he ever saw his kids as a burden, at least that we heard of. Maybe earlier on, sure, maybe he felt the weight of his first kid at some point, I don't know. But I don't think he ever expressed that. I don't think he ever made his kid feel like they're a burden. Like I would if I would have children, because I definitely don't want them. I have never wanted them. I don't desire them. If I were gone today, I don't have to lament the fact that I have been working to have a steady home life so that I can be a mom. But oh my God, I'm perishing today and I didn't get to be a mom. I would be a soul in agony if I had that goal of becoming a mom and suddenly I'm told, oh, well, you only have like a month to live. And no, that's not happening. That would crush me. But fortunately, I can say that's not an issue I have. My brother can say that his desire to be a father and him not getting there, he can't say that. He made it. And he got to see one of his kids grow. And the other one was in the process of growing. And maybe he might have missed out in the beginning of his eldest son's growth. I'm not sure if he was able to be there during his newborn years and everything. I mean, full time. Or maybe he missed out on those first 3, 4 years of the eldest's life, but he was able to make up for that with this young one. And you guys know that I have a degree of religious beliefs. Maybe that was the plan this entire time. Oh, you missed out on this. Don't worry. It'll come back to you. Don't be tormented. It may be down the road, but it's coming back. He will fulfill the cycle, and now we're back here. So maybe the so called curse in our family of us growing up without fathers, let it be because they voluntarily abandon us and neglect us, or we lose them, they're taken and stuff. Maybe we are living with this curse because that is the plan. This is something that our family is designed to endure, and we won't liberate ourselves from that curse until we come together and address our issues. And that way, the next person in our family to have kids, they'll have successful marriages, financially stable, with an education, and with familial backing. Maybe that is why things keep happening in our family like this, because we have to make the plan to break this condemnation. What feels like a condemnation, but maybe it's just us perpetuating this cycle. So, yeah, you guys, this is why I need quiet time. This is why I didn't immediately vent to everybody that this had happened in my life, because everything that I just shared with you, I needed that processing time. It was like an app that was running in the background. It was still uploading, offloading, unloading, all that. And I'm proud of myself for being able to handle it like that. I could have taken the time off from work, but I didn't feel the need to. I couldn't visit my family anyway because getting there is not exactly free. It's not exactly cost effective. I cannot afford a round trip on a plane to visit them some hundreds of miles away in a cost effective way. And on top of that, like I have shared before, I don't like funeral settings because sometimes the memory of the funeral outweighs my memories of the person being around. With my boyfriend's family members whose funerals I have attended, that hasn't happened. But the impact is still there if I look for it. If I get careless and don't mind myself, then it could find me. But yeah, you guys, finally, the last detail I would like to share about my brother, which I left for the end for a reason. You have heard me say that my brother wasn't sick. I keep saying that he was taken, he was snatched. And it is because he did not pass from natural causes, like I said. He was actually a victim of violence. I am not going to share what kind of violence it was, but it was bad. And the worst part about it, the part that brings me peace, you could say, is that my blood was shed, was spilled, but it was not intended to happen. You could say this was a case of mistaken identity. But my brother, it just so happened that he was in the wrong spot at the precise time that this disaster was going to happen. And he happened to get caught there, especially because I'm guessing he matched some description. And like I said, this is a case of mistaken identity. And this wasn't really intended. But, and this is going to be hard for me to share, but it ties in to what I keep saying about how our society needs a lot of help. And we keep advocating for things that are the means for our destruction because those things land on the wrong hands, and those wrong hands simply don't know what to do with themselves. And I also processed the fact that now I can say I am a family member of a statistic now, and it sucks. And I don't wish it on anybody because there's like a self stigma that you may find yourself with. But at least I can tell you guys that now that I'm on the ending of my processing time, I think things happen the way they needed to happen. I would hope that this event serves as a catalyst for things to improve in my family, but I personally have not reached out. I only heard from my father. My brother, we have talked about literally anything else. Like, we share each other memes and stuff like we always did. We may have certain memories and we share each other's videos or something. But we have not talked about our brother at all. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but that is the way we are. We didn't feel compelled to go to each other for comfort because we are different. My brother was closer to him, he knew his kids. I don't remember meeting his eldest kid. If I have, I sincerely forgot. My brother's, who's passed. My full brother doesn't have any children. We don't have any children. But I can tell you that my brother has had more connections made with the family. And even if I would have had the desire to show up for the family, I would be out of place, honestly, because I didn't feel like I needed consoling. It's not that I didn't love my eldest brother, it's just that we had a distanced relationship. We were estranged. And it's not because we were upset at each other, despite the challenges that he ran into with my mom, that by extension affected me, but we did not directly have a confrontation or anything. He was able to clear things up with mom sometime prior to this event happening. So it almost looked like he was leaving things in order in this planet before he had to leave. That's why I say I look at it with a degree of religious interpretation. And all I have to say is I feel fine. I don't regret not showing up. I don't think that my family would have rejected me. But I think that it was probably most proper for me to not be there because given that my family has not seen me for decades, if I were to show up, I feel like I would have taken away from my brother's moment. This was his moment to be told goodbye, to be mourned by those who knew him truly, who were closer to him. And I feel like my presence, whilst it could have been positive, some family members, I'm sure, would have been delighted to see me after so long. Because we have that disconnection and that lack of communication, I feel like even if I excite them with my presence, because it is not communication that we have had reinforced from a distance, I feel like it would have been very shocking for me to show up. I'm personally indifferent, like whether they acknowledge me or not. I feel the way I feel. But sincerely, I felt like me showing up for my brother's service, it really wasn't going to do anything for me because I think I would have opted for wanting to stay with my mom, visit her since it's been over a year now since she's been gone from the house here. And that is the longest I've ever been away from my mom and without true communication for extended periods of time. Like, I don't feel her presence here and stuff. And sincerely, that's how I would rather spend my time anyway. And like I said, yeah, my brother's event affected me, but it was more indirect than direct. What it did give me was material for me to ponder, journal, think critically about, and reevaluate our family's status. But for my personal peace, I did not need to be consoled. I didn't need to be supported. I didn't need to be surrounded by people. The most I could have gotten out of this would have been the opportunity to meet his children and being like, hey, yeah, so I'm your aunt. We've never met. but but yeah, I've never experienced being an aunt. What is that? I've never babysat. I've never even held a child in my arms. See what I mean? So sincerely, I think it was most appropriate that I not go because sincerely, I don't see how I could have contributed to my family's processing. And that I think there's a part in me that feels like that is the point of these services so that it inspires people to show up. But in my case, I think I need to show up when there isn't an incident sort of obligating that. You know what I mean? Like, um, I would like to show up to directly visit people, to hang out with them, catch up with them, catch them up about me. And that simply cannot happen if I go on a 2 day trip to visit them, because that was about the most I could squeeze into my schedule at the time. And on top of that, realistically, I have to mind my finances. I would have had to take a plane, and those cost a pretty penny based on my budget. And I also feel bad. I'm going to share this because it's natural for me to include this detail, but sometimes if my intent is to show up to visit someone and the subject is my brother who has passed away, if we were estranged, I feel weird that I'm visiting him when he's gone. If I'm going to visit someone, I want to visit them because they're around. They're alive and I can talk to them. But something about visiting someone after they have perished, I feel like once you perish, that's it. I understand the symbolism of the the remembrance events, like vigils and all that. I'm just speaking for me, what it does to me mentally and emotionally. I perform better with these kinds of events if I don't go. And it's not out of an avoidance of the people or the reality, like seeing the funeral makes it all more real and stuff. I'm just saying that I don't see the usefulness for such a thing on my part. I will reunite with the family under different circumstances. And the family, fortunately, they all seemed like they were doing fine. Online, I saw my aunt posting something, my grandma posted something. They were there for each other, they were supporting each other, and it was great and appropriate because they were close with each other. I wouldn't fit in. That's the reality of things. And I'm fine with that. I am at peace with that. Now, had it been my mom, the person I'm closest to, things would have been different. Had it been my full brother, even if we have a degree of distancing, not total estrangement, but even if we don't know each other that well anymore, like we did when we were kids, even if we didn't have a strong relationship, I definitely would show up for my full brother. And my grandma, I couldn't show up for my grandfather when he passed. I don't think I could show up for when her time comes. But again, estrangements, I should say, if you let it, it can actually be a good thing because it takes some weight off from you. But it's not a very good thing to permanently be this way. I'm just sharing with you guys what it is that has happened with me, how I have processed it, what has worked, what hasn't, what the cost of it has been. But in a sense, had I been close to this event, it probably would have affected me in a way that I wouldn't have recovered from quite as swiftly. And I feel like the fewer disruptions, the better, especially in your life as an adult. And I think that me opting for not showing up, not disrupting my routine to go to work and make money, I think that was the most responsible thing I could have done for myself. Because again, I was going to show up and it was probably going to be a good experience, one that I was going to be grateful for and come out with great memories with. But I also ran the risk of the opposite happening. Maybe it wouldn't have turned out to be the experience I needed it to be. Maybe I would have run into some unpleasantries that I would have avoided by avoiding that event. Would the good have outweighed the bad? I'm sure it could have, because I can make that experience whatever I want, and I have power over my time now since I'm an adult. And again, I was going to see my mom anyway. That would have made up for any unpleasantries many times over. But I'm just saying that it's not like, oh yeah, someone's passing can have a good time of happening. There's never a good time for this, especially when you don't see it coming at all. But I'm just saying that for me, things worked out. I continued showing up to work. I didn't experience financial disruptions. And that is something that I have to consider because you guys know that my situation is not the greatest. And things turned out this way. This is something that my mom said. My mom, when it comes to the challenges from our past, she says, that is simply the way that things turned out between us. And after she said that, I actually let it marinate in my head. That is just the way things happened between us. That is the way things happened with my dad. That is the way things happened with my brother. That is the way things happened with my upbringing, everything. Just be at peace with it. Take it, process it, let it go, keep going. So there you guys have it. That's it from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was I'm glad I did this because the more I talk about it, the better. Before I wrap up entirely, when I told my manager, let me start with my boyfriend since he was the first one I said. When I said this to my boyfriend, I was in that denial stage. It was like, I'm not surprised, but there's a little bit of shock considering that we didn't see this coming. Like, we knew something like this could happen, but we didn't know it was going to happen like this. So I just told my boyfriend what my memories with him were and all that. But I had like no reaction. I was just like numb, like in factory settings. When I told my manager, it was harder because I had a lot of shame and I felt a lot of guilt over how I couldn't have a stronger bond with my brother. And there was a time in which we were calling each other. Like when I was in high school, there was one year when, for some reason, during that winter, I forget what year it was, but he was calling me a lot. And I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to people calling me. He would call me sometimes like After 5 minutes, we hung up. He's calling again to ask me something else. And then the next day, the next night, for some reason, he really started calling me. And I'm just devastated that I didn't journal back then. I don't remember what we talked about very much, but he would ask me about school and my progress. Um, I don't remember him doing very well in school. From what I have heard, I'm not even sure if he finished school. But looking back, I thought I can say he tried. And I guess we couldn't cling to each other during that time. It's just the way things turned out between us. But when I told my manager, I just absolutely bawled my eyes out. And I told him, maybe this is happening to me right now because I'm thinking about what it means for him to be gone, for his children, the effect on my dad, which my dad tried to play it like he was firm, strong, and indifferent. But my mom told me that he looked like he wasn't doing well, which is what I would expect from a father who lost his eldest kid. You're not supposed to be saying goodbye to a child. The children are supposed to say goodbye to you. And yeah, I was also telling my manager that what's especially shocking for me is that the circumstance was this was blood spilled. It's not a disease took him, a car accident took it. Is someone went up to him and took him out. And it turned out to not be the person they intended, you know? And that's just shocking. That is the shocking part for me. Because I'm thinking, how can you express so much violence to someone you don't know? And that's when, I guess because I had had a few days to process that, I didn't share the news with him immediately because I was on time off. I thought about texting him for his advice and being like, do you think I should take time off? I know I'm entitled to. But then I explained that the reason I didn't consult him is because I needed the processing time. I happened to be on PTO and I sincerely did not feel like I needed it. Because what am I going to do taking time off to be here at home by myself? If I'm going to take time off, it's because I want to be able to fly out there and be present. But if I can't do that, I think it's pointless. And I guess that hurt me emotionally a little bit. But I got over that as soon as I expressed it. And I liberated myself from that heavy cloud. And I was able to recover and go back to work immediately. Just cleaned my face up a little bit. And I told him, the only reason I'm sharing this with you is because I think you should know. In the event that it represents a disruption for my job performance. So I'm saying this to my manager. Now, to my friend, I'm saying that this is particularly upsetting and frustrating because it's yet another disaster that my family, who you know, is not warm and fuzzy, has to go through. And then after I told him, because he was the first person I told outside of my boyfriend, I felt peace. And when I felt that peace, that's when I knew that I did the right thing. It was about time that I became strong and started sharing it. Now, the third and final person I had revealed this to, I did so via writing, which was one of you guys. And if I remember correctly, the subject line to this message was, I have been hiding a deep secret. And then I referenced how, hey, if you've been tuning in and you've caught me say something like, hey, I'm going through something that has me pretty somber. This is what happened. I'm going to go straight to it. I'm not going to beat around the bushes. And it is what happened to my brother. And when I was sharing it with one of you guys, I felt the sorrow with my manager. I felt the shock with my boyfriend. And when I told you, what I felt was anger. And it was over the stuff I described about my brother's circumstances and my father's absence and just our familial circumstances. And if I were to describe to you guys now how I feel right this second, sharing it with a potentially wider audience, whether it is people who know me well from hanging out here for years, or some of you may be more recent viewers, the way I feel is liberated because I was able to tell you this, and I feel like I told you everything I wanted you to know, everything I felt comfortable sharing, me being very sincere, no drama, no exaggerations. This feels like a good closure. And the fact that I was able to say it and I maintained myself composed, like I wasn't angry, I wasn't crying, I wasn't. That is how I know that my processing time was effective and it is over and I can carry on. My brother stopped invading my thoughts continuously. I want to say after, I wish I could tell you exactly, after 2 weeks, I would say. And that means a lot to me because I guess that ties back to what my mom said about I was able to text you the news like this, very raw, because I know you're strong and I know you can take it. And she was right. Now that I am concluding this episode here, and I feel like I offloaded, like I liberated myself from this, I found closure. And I think I have had the closure for weeks now, but I can say that now that I have expressed myself more pub, publicly, um, this was a good exercise for me because it shows me my growth. I think in a different time, like had this happened maybe 10 years ago when my daddy issues were still pressing on me, I think my reaction would have been different. It would have been, I don't want to say a little more dramatic because my temperament hasn't really changed much. I've become slightly more calm over the years, but my calm comes from experience. But there are some things that still hurt me and trigger me and upset me the same way because it's unresolved issues. And I can tell you that this is a good exercise for me to evaluate myself and where I'm at mentally and emotionally. And I think I'm in a good spot. And I'm glad that I have this serving as my observable, solid evidence. And I appreciate you guys, especially those of you who we have had more time together. And if I would have just told you the news, something like, hey, you guys, I'm just letting you know that my vibe may be a little bit off because of my personal life, I'm processing something, and this is it. I will continue my uploads like usual, but just so you know, this happened. And I would act like a teacher and assign you guys, hey, write to me in the comments how you think I'm processing this, what you think I'm thinking, what you think I'm feeling. And I'm pretty confident that those of you who know me well would have been would have been able to take a good guess about how I would process something like this based off what you have gotten to know about me. And even people at work who don't know me that well, if I were to ask them, I'm pretty sure that they would say, I had no idea, the slightest idea that you were processing that because I kept showing up to work. My demeanor was pretty much the same. But the only difference is that my posture physically became more firm, more stern. Like I could see myself not moving as much. Like I would stand on one spot as opposed to kind of like sweeping through my area a lot, like I always do. I want to say I did that for the first five or so shifts I had. But then after that, it's like I started like regaining my free movement, you could say. And that's how I knew that, all right, this is passing. Okay, that's it for me, you guys. Bye.